My entire field of study is based around understanding why we behave the way we behave based on these ancient stories that basically I'm here to tell you that your brain is literally wired to survive and have sex. That's it. It's the two worlds we live in, right? Like, can I eat that? Is it going to kill me? Or can I procreate with that? That's what we're walking around with most of the time. So how can we use that brain to, maximize our efficiencies in life?
Welcome to the Spartan Up podcast with Joe De Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Race.
We are talking about overcoming obstacles. The same way we teach people to get over obstacles on the course, we will teach you here on the Spartan Up podcast to get over obstacles in your mind.
Today on the podcast, Joe De Sena talks to evolutionary biologist Dr. Rebecca Heiss about what drives our behavior and how we can adapt those drives and even our fears to our advantage. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by True Form Runner. Conquer your next race with the complete training solution from Spartan and True Form. The Spartan True Form Trainer will redefine your running, improve your form, and reduce injury. Find out more at trueformrunner.com.
Spartans, we're here for Spartan Up Podcast. Joe De Sena, founder and CEO, with Rebecca Heiss, an evolutionary biologist. I have no fucking idea why we want an evolutionary biologist on the show, but they tell me that you're awesome and that maybe we can find out that all the folks that have done Spartan, 7 million plus have done Spartan across 45 countries, maybe they're evolutionary. How would I say that? Evolutionarily connected? Can I say that?
Yeah, you can say that. Sure. You know what? Here's the biggest message that I'm going to tell you today is that the brain believes the story you tell it. So if that's the story you want to tell it, Joe, so we are actually all connected. So that's nice. We share a ton of DNA. But why do you want to talk to an evolutionary biologist? First of all, why wouldn't you? Because we are amazing. But the real question is, we understand your brain, right? We understand all of the stories, all of the tricks, all the things that hold you back because our brains evolved from our ancestors. In order to understand who you are and all the fears that you have that might prevent you from fully living, you need to understand the fears that are inborn with the thing we carry.
I love it. And what do I do with my daughter that keeps running by and making noise? She purposely does that. This might be an evolutionary thing.
Yeah, she's just trying to get your attention. That's how we survive, right? We're really annoying as kids. We're like, hey, pay attention, because we're seeking your resources. We got to hang on to it. It's actually, there is something kind of fun there. Little kids have really big eyes. If you notice that, the ratios are much bigger, so they look cute, so you don't kill them. I'm not joking. That's an evolved thing. They're cute. And you're like, oh, I feel some adoration for that little thing that's running around annoying me. So
this is awesome because do you guys, when you were studying, it's a 4-year program, evolutionary biology?
So I have a doctorate in stress physiology, a master's degree in evolutionary psychology, and then actually 2 master's degrees, but it doesn't matter, and a 4-year undergraduate. Yeah. So it's just a lot of schooling to say your brain is dumb. You're smarter than your brain. Train your brain. That's a simple message.
And the reason I was asking was when you go back, when you study for 4 years biology, where we came from, right? Do you study the psychology? Do you study? Because I'm always interested in stuff like that. Like, this is why a child does this because years ago we might kill it. This is I'm really interested in that stuff.
Yeah, that's all I study, in fact. So my entire field of study is based around understanding why we behave the way we behave based on these ancient stories that basically I'm here to tell you that your brain is literally wired to survive and have sex. That's it. It's the two worlds we live in, right? Like, can I eat that? Is it going to kill me? Or can I procreate with that? That's what we're walking around with most of the time. So how can we use that brain to, maximize our efficiencies in life?
That's it's sad in a way, right? Because we make our lives so much more complex. We got to order this thing. We got to wear this certain kind of clothes. We got to drive this kind of car. No, what do you want to eat and who are you going to procreate with? That's it.
But fascinatingly, all of those behaviors are driven by I can get a better mate if I drive this car, right? I have to achieve status. I got to look good. I got to be a leader so that I can get money so that I can attract all these mates. And all of the women are piling on their makeup. No offense, ladies. I know we do more than that. Trust me. Okay. But we're still ascribing to all of these ancient behaviors of like, ooh, I can get a mate if I look a certain way, or it's bizarre, but that's what's driving so many of our stories.
Our actions.
Yeah.
I love to work hard, but you're saying you go down to the root cause.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's those two things.
Why do you love to work hard, Joe?
I mean, I feel good when I work hard. I feel good at the end of the day.
Yeah.
By the way, it doesn't even have to be economically driven. I'm thinking as I answer the question, it doesn't have to be economically driven. If you said there's a giant pile of sand out there, move it 12 feet to the right, I would actually enjoy that.
Because you've seen that you've accomplished something, right? Dopamine hits, your brain goes, I did that. Look at me. I'm amazing. I can lead this tribe to success because I can move dirt. It's a bizarre circuit, but our brain operates from those norms. And most of the time, all it's doing is trying to avoid death, right? So most of the things that hold us back are these fears that aren't even relevant today. Like, I'm going to get kicked out of the tribe. Like that fear of rejection or fear of failure is all I'm going to die, right? They're going to kick me out of the tribe and I'm going to die. No, you're not. You're not going to die, right? If you get kicked out of the tribe because you act a certain way or behave, just find a better tribe. It's not life or death anymore. But our brains don't know that. It's why so many people struggle, like especially in this community. I know you guys are not unfamiliar with discomfort, right? Like you push your bodies into discomfort. But how often do we do that outside of the physical, right? We get uncomfortable with something like, I don't know, asking for 10% off a Starbucks card. And we're like, oh my gosh, we have a stress response. We start sweating. We're like, we're not going to do that. That's weird. That's awkward. Why? It's fine. The barista is going to say, no, they're going to reject you. You're going to get kicked out of that tribe. It's fine. You pay your $10.99 or whatever you pay for coffee and you walk out the door. You don't die. But our brains don't know that. So we still have these weird stress responses, these weird like discomfort things that we can't override because our ancient fears are holding us back.
Will we eventually evolve to catch up with our new environment where like it used to be like if I got kicked out of my tribe, I might actually die.
You would. Yeah, that's a valid fear. Yeah.
But now it's like Twitter. Like, who cares?
No big deal. Yeah, and that's so two answers to that. One, yes, eventually, probably 200,000 years or so from now, because biology operates really slowly. But the good news is you as an individual don't have to wait for that. Right? We're fully capable of training our conscious brains to operate from the world that we live in. But I typically describe this as having a zombie brain. Like when I ask, who are you? You'll give me your name, your title, maybe what you do, maybe you're a dad. It's all these things, but you are actually the zombie brain. You're this collection of stories and instincts that have driven you to be where you are. We've got to get familiar with that because we can change those stories if we're aware of that. But there's a whole bunch of things that today even propel us deeper into those stories without us recognizing. So like the example that I love to give is the saying, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Or what would you attempt if you knew you wouldn't fail? And that feels really positive. Oh yeah, I'd do this and that. But it still drives this story of like, but if I fail, then what? Instead, right, we could ask that a different way. We could say, what would you do if you knew you would fail?
That's my question I ask all the time.
Really? And it would still be worth it. It would still be worth it. So if we're conscious, right? If we're doing the things that you're saying, right? Be conscious of it. Fail. Great. You didn't die. Now you've started to train that subconscious zombie brain.
The reason I give that when I give a speech, when you're trying to find your purpose in life, I say you could ask like, what if I had all the money in the world and I could do anything, right? That's a question we've heard for years. But I like the question, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What would you do if you knew you would fail? Like if you would do it anyway and you're failing every day at it, if you went into the jiu-jitsu gym and got your ass kicked every single day, but you kept going back. And I know a story of a guy, which is how this question came to be in my head. He must love going to jiu-jitsu. He must love it.
For sure. But it takes that conscious override. And so many of us don't pause to say, or we get caught in the story of like, I'm failing. I'm bad at jiu-jitsu. I won't go back. Why? If you're not going to die. You're not going to die. It's not a tiger that's going to eat you. It's not a tribe that you're getting kicked out of. It's fine. Sit in that discomfort, own that discomfort, love that discomfort. That's how you identify who you are.
You just said, love that discomfort, right? We're, like you said, we are in the business of making people uncomfortable. And I guess I need to start telling people discomfort is a privilege, because if we go back to the ancient world, discomfort was death.
Exactly.
You probably had the Spanish flu or whatever, right? Like the Black Plague. And now, like, a little uncomfortable is like, oh, it's a privilege.
Exactly. See, and unfortunately, most people don't realize what you know, which is that, like, our brains still carry that shortcut, that discomfort equals death. Because again, for our ancestors, a little bit of cold, a little bit of, hunger, you die if you don't immediately address that. Today, it's like, turn up the thermostat. I have a full set of recovery after I do an intense workout. I'm going to be fine. But until we train our brains on all the stories, both physically, mentally, emotionally, like being vulnerable, terrifying. People are so scared of, like, they'll find out who I really am. I'm really an imposter. I don't belong here. They'll kick me out of the tribe. I have no value. So fail, continue to fail. Show up to that jujitsu class. Fail again and again and again and again. That's how you know you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, I love that. Now let's go on. I found the greatest mate ever, but it was completely random. My wife, I met, it was completely random, as is, I think, most people that get married, right? It's completely random. They met. Yep. Way. We met at a race. People meet at bars, restaurants, pre-COVID. Is there randomness there, or is there something else going on if we look back at, the ancient brain?
Yeah, genetically, oh boy, this gets really dangerous really quick. So males and females are, you may have noticed, different. And we look for different things in mates. So males, not an excuse, but you are genetically predetermined to look for as many mates as possible, right? Because let's be honest, sperm is really cheap, right? You're producing billions of those suckers every single day. For females, it's a much heavier investment. Like, we're looking for a man who is going to provide, who's going to stick around to help us raise this offspring that we have.
Because you have less eggs.
Yeah, we have less eggs, and it's a heavier investment, right? Like, if I have a single mate, or if I have 100 mates, I can only produce one offspring. If you have a single mate or 100 mates, you have the potential to produce 100 offspring.
Right,
so, like, we're immediately looking for different things. But we do, one of my favorite tests of all time is the sweaty t-shirt test. So, like, she probably thinks you smell so good when you sweat, which is weird. But it's because we identify something called a major histocompatibility complex. Big, long word to basically say your immune system. She can smell how different your immune system is from hers. And we're attracted to people with very different immune systems from our own, which avoids inbreeding, right? You think your sisters and your brothers stink, so you're not mating with them. So you're subtly going around like, you smell lovely. We should have offspring because their immune systems would be amazing. It's the most bizarre things for, like, what we're actually looking for.
How does it, I heard, especially during Corona, I heard that the Vikings used to all spit into a cup and then drink out of it to kind of, anything to do with what you just said, or is that some other just crazy?
I have no idea what that's about. But my guess, if I had to create a hypothesis, that's a shared community, right? That's what you've created here with Spartan, is you have a sense of belonging here. You have a community. This is a safe space for you to shed all of those other stories, to say, my conscious self can be its real, true self here. I don't have to rely on any other story. So you're just drinking the Kool-Aid, as it were, or the.
So you're suggesting, when I first started Spartan, I wanted to have ladles in big stainless steel troughs, and that's how they would get water, because I didn't want to have plastic bottles or plastic cups. Everybody said I was nuts, but it sounds like the evolutionary biologist is suggesting we go to the ladles. I
mean, look, germs aside, 100%. And look, it builds your immune system a little bit. It's fine. You're just getting a few other things.
Why do you think, not to sound commercial, why do people love Spartan? They because it literally changes their life. And I say, I'm confused. Like, I get it. It's awesome. The brand is awesome. We work really hard, but, like, it's just a race.
No, it's not. And not to sell your own product back to you, but no, you've tapped into a huge universal need. Humans need two things, really. They need to survive, And to do that, they need community, right? That is the very basic. If you have food and water, the next thing you need is community. And what you've built is a community where everybody's uncomfortable together. What you've created is a common enemy, what I describe as a common enemy. So our brain is constantly looking for things to fight. It's just how we're built. We look for the other, the dangerous other, whether it's a different skin color or the marketing department or whoever we just dislike. Our brain is looking for that. So what you've done is you've created a common enemy of comfort. Comfort is your common enemy. And your whole team, your whole group belongs because they're working together. There's no internal squabble here. They've got a bigger external common enemy that you're all fighting. And it's brilliant. Complacency, the fear of discomfort. Everybody is united by fighting those things. So now you've done a heck of a job creating that brand and creating a place where people are starving for. We don't have great communities anymore in this world of 8 billion people. We're just kind of like, oh, that's a person, there's another individual.
We will be right back to this episode, but first we're going to talk about our sponsor, Trueform. And Johnny, do you remember last year at World Championships when those 4 intrepid athletes decided to lock themselves in a shipping container for 24 hours on one of these?
Yeah, not just lock themselves in a shipping container, lock themselves in a shipping container and see who could run the furthest on a treadmill. Sounds completely nuts.
We love
Spartan,
it.
we're completely nuts. Fortunately, there's also a company out there that's equally committed to doing the work, and it's Trueform Treadmills.
Way to go, Trueform.
Yeah, no, honestly.
Yeah, it's a beautiful marriage.
Incredible partnership. So what we did, we locked these 4 guys in a dark, silent space. They ran on a Trueform treadmill. And the cool thing about this, they did the work. So a normal treadmill, it starts to spin. You just try and keep up with it. It does all the work for you. And if you run badly, you just run badly faster. Trueform, you have to make it move. You do the work. It makes you do the work properly. That's the other thing. It makes you run better. People think that practice makes perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. True. Imperfect practice makes injury. So Trueform has put together a program that's going to solve all that for you. Yep. You go to trueformrunner.com. They have a program. For a monthly payment, you're going to get the machine.
You get a workout of the day.
Training program. You're even going to get a gait analysis that shows you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong.
And then you even get entry at the gate to a Spartan race.
Yeah, they're throwing a free Spartan race in. And you know what? If you want to run faster, you want to run better, you want to run Spartan races, you really need to do this. Trueformrunner.com.
All right, let's run back to this episode, Johnny.
Good call, Sephra.
I'm typing this. Comfort is the enemy. Complacency kills is another thing I say.
Huge. It's huge. I mean, when you have that clear common enemy, all the differences between you go away. So like we could be different politically, we could be different from a religious perspective, from a racial perspective, but if you have something bigger to fight, which you've created for them, complacency, right? Then you unite together. You're all warring against the same thing. And it tapped into our deepest, most tribal instincts to say, yeah, we've got to fight. We've got to survive because we've got a common enemy here to go through.
And the church is probably less attended in the developed world, right? And so we fill that void. I know that's going to piss a lot of people off that I said that, but I think we fill a void there because like you said, people want community and they could align and say, hey, I work at General Electric. That's kind of cool, but it's a lot cooler to say I'm Spartan.
Yeah, 100%. And because when you say I work at General Electric, what are you fighting there?
Right.
I mean, you could say I've got these mission, vision, and values. Well, that's nice. Those are like little grapes that you're out picking. It's a lovely day. It's like, oh, mission, vision, values. What are you fighting? What are you warring against? Because the brain operates like this. It's like, oh, berries. Those are lovely little things. But you have a little wrestling that happens behind you. What do? Right? You're immediately focused on this. You've given them this. Yeah. Here's the fight. And everybody goes, and we're zeroed in. Here's the fight. Yeah. So now we're a community at war.
I love it. So what would you recommend to folks out there that only want food and the opposite sex? Yeah. That's all they want, but they want to optimize their life. They want to do better. They want to be peak performers. What would you like? Simple things on a daily basis.
Yeah. First of all, meditate. Now, I know your listeners have heard this a bazillion times, but here's what meditation does. I have always thought that I was a failure at meditating because when I close my eyes and I try and clear my head, all these stories come in, right? All the things I'm supposed to be doing. That's brilliant. That's what meditation is about. Because when you hear the stories, when you hear the things that are driving you to behave the way you do, like measuring anything in business, it's when you have the opportunity to change them, right? To look at those fears head on and say, wait a second, that's not a story that's helping me. They'll come right back, right? But continue, the more you train your brain to say, I need to tell a different story, the more your brain can get flexible and fight against these as common enemies. So first, meditate. Second, swap out some ants. So ants are automatic negative thoughts. It's what our brain is primed with, and we are just riddled with ants. So these are the common pathways that kept us alive. The same reason when you put your hand on a hot stove, you pull it back instinctually. That's a good story. We want that to happen. But it's also the same, those same stories are what keeps us from fully living. It keeps us afraid of the wrong things, like snakes. We don't have to be afraid of snakes. Like, nobody dies of a snake bite anymore. That's ridiculous. But we're not afraid of burgers. You should be terrified of stuffing your face with burgers every single day, right? Like, the number one thing we have is heart disease. So sort out those fears, right? Do I need to be afraid of snakes? No, they're not. I don't need to spend my time worrying about that.
I'm typing, don't be afraid of snakes, be afraid of burgers.
I mean, this is the biggest thing. If we can sort our fears, if we can become aware of the fears that actually make sense, like, that's actually going to kill me. I'll tell you a story. I was sitting on the beach with my partner. My partner's in the water splashing around and having a good time. And he's like, come on, come in. I'm like, And I'm biting on a burger. I'm like, there's sharks out there. I'm not, And then it hit me. I was like, okay, number one thing we die of is heart disease. I'm cramming this down my throat right now. There are two unprovoked shark attacks every year. Statistically, what's the fear I need to be fighting right now? Right?
Last thing you want to do is jump in the water with a burger.
Exactly. Hey guys, you want it?
So all right. So what else you got? And when you said meditate, first thing in the morning, I do it at night. I do it before I go to bed. Yeah.
So Joe, this is the thing. First thing in the morning is the best. Second is right before you go to bed. The third is anytime you'll do it consistently. Okay? Anytime you'll do it consistently. The waking and going to sleep hours are the best because that's when your brain hits a different rhythm. And so it's more apt to listen, essentially, right? Your conscious brain has a little more power over those subconscious stories at those times. But the reality is anytime you're doing that, you're starting to influence and activate this frontal lobe where you're making conscious cognitive choices rather than relying on what I call the zombie brain, right? This stories of rejection and failure that we need to override.
Water, cold shower, salad.
I mean, listen to your body, right? Water for sure. We don't put enough water into our systems. I would say one of the things that I use is awareness alarms. So we fall back to our subconscious for 99.9% of the day. We're just operating from these stories. So two things. One, we need to train those stories better. But before we get to that, let's have a simple solution. The simple solution is to create a little more conscious time throughout the day. So do you set an alarm to wake up in the morning?
I do set an alarm to wake up, yes.
You wake up like a few minutes before that alarm goes off, typically? Yeah. So what you've done is you've created this alarm in your brain to like make you become conscious. So we'll use that exact same principle throughout the day. So this week, set 5 alarms to go off throughout the day. And when they go off, become conscious. Check in with yourself. What am I doing right now? Am I stuffing food down my throat that I don't need to? Am I telling myself a story about that I'm going to fail, that I'm an imposter, that I'm going to get rejected, that I really need to override? Like, what stories am I operating from in that moment? Because the whole goal is to sort our fears. Right? I work in the space of what I call becoming fearless. It doesn't mean be fearless, right? Fearless is dumb. No offense, but like, don't jump into the cage of the hungry tiger. Don't jump into the water with the hungry shark and start teasing it with a hamburger. Don't do that. But actively and consciously sorting the fears that are driving you, that's power. And that we all have the ability to do from a conscious perspective. So we're out this much more conscious time throughout the day with those alarms.
You're saying you need an alarm. You need a trigger.
Yeah, you need a trigger. And one of the things that you'll find is just like you've trained your brain to wake up a few minutes before your alarm goes off. The more you use those alarms, the more you will just start to become conscious at particular times of the day and allow yourself to check in and say, am I operating from a story of fear or am I operating from a conscious cognitive choice?
I love it. And I heard a rumor when you were a kid, I don't know how old, your house burned down.
Oh, yeah. So technically, I burnt my house down. Technically, I was the one that lit the match, right? That put it into the appropriate fireplace. And we had a bit of an incident with the chimney. We didn't realize it. Everybody's sitting around. It's like the week before Christmas, and we're cooking gingerbread. And my uncle was like, "Did anybody smell that?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a gingerbread. It's fine."
How old were you?
I was 8.
Okay.
And they, my dad and my uncle went around the back and they're like, "Oh, the entire top half of the house is gone." So, got everybody out of the house. The thing that I saved, which I'm very proud of, was the quesadilla and hot wing that I had on my plate in front of me. So I sat out in the New York State, upstate winter snow, barefoot, chowing on my hot wing, watching my house burn down. Going, whoa.
Well, you gotta have food. I mean, that was your prehistoric
number one priority, right? Yeah. So it was a really interesting event. I'll say definitely a formative one for me.
And do you think that kind of guided you on how you ended up here?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways it did. I think when I tell people the first time, like, yeah, my house burned down like to the ground, people are like, "Oh my God, that's awful. That's awful." I'm like, no, actually it was literally one of the best things that ever happened to me, because what I realized was the necessities and the real importance in life of family, community. I was so lucky and so privileged to have a community around me. That community housed us, clothed us, fed us, took care of us, and we were back on our feet, and without that community, without having that safe space to grow, to build, to recognize who we are within, I don't know what would have happened to us. So it's definitely shaped me to think not only more about community, but also about different outcomes. To say, oh my gosh, I could have been really scared of fire and I could have just let that sort of victim mentality take over. And instead it was like, well, it's not permanent. It's not pervasive. It's not going to, every house that I live in is not going to burn down. And it's not personal, right? Nobody came and attacked us. It's these things happen. So we bite the lemon and we move on.
I love it. I love the attitude. I mean, it's so Spartan, so stoic, everything you talk about. And basically you confirmed it. All the Spartans come from ancient Sparta.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and confirm that. That's, we talk a lot about mindset in the work that I do. And I'm a big fan of mindset and like how we can shape the brain to tell the story that we want it to tell. But so frequently I get frustrated with colleagues of mine who are like inspirational speakers and they're out just sugarcoating everything. Like, just believe it and it will be. Now, sometimes life sucks and that's okay, right? I think the whole phrase of, when life hands you lemons, just make lemonade. Some of us don't have freaking sugar, right? Like, you're looking around, you're like, my house is on fire, the economy's in the toilet. Do you have community? Bite the lemon. Go ahead. Stuck on it for a second. It is going to be sour and bitter and awful, but everything after is going to be that much sweeter because it's not personal, it's not permanent, it's not pervasive. You've got a community, you get to move on.
So I got to type that one as well. I love all your little sayings.
Thanks.
The whole world says, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Your statement is, when life gives you lemons, bite on the fucking thing.
Yeah, just bite it. Yeah, I mean, like, look, if you can make lemonade, of course make lemonade. But life isn't handing you sugar, it's handing you fucking lemons. So do what you gotta do with the lemon. Enjoy it, suck on it for a second. You'll move on.
What is it about, like, if you look at the movies and the books that are so big in the world, it's typically that person that just, that hero, right? That just fights against all odds and fights the lemon that life throws at them. How does that tie into evolution? Is that like You tell me, is that the guide that we're looking at? Is like, we got to be like that? Like, what is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the story that we want to tell about ourselves. And what our subconscious brain will do if we let it is it'll hold us back from that journey. Because at some point, what you'll notice is that hero has a lemon. And you can either toss the lemon aside, you can add sugar to it, or what the hero always does is the Spartan way, just bites right down, and then the adventure unfolds. But so much of us, or so many of us, will be held back by that fear. Well, the lemon might taste sour. Well, it might last for a really long time. It might be uncomfortable. And our subconscious brain will prevent us from living that. So unless we're willing to override our subconscious brain, override that zombie and say, no, this is my active choice. I get to do this. I get to engage in this discomfort. I get to bite this lemon and taste it and experience life fully, every range of it. I think that's the true hero's journey. And I think every single person in your community is on that path.
Yeah, or in life, right? We all want to be that hero, I guess. We all do.
Yeah, I think we all have the opportunity to.
All right, Rebecca, what is it about this app? You've got an app and you got a book coming out and you're full of energy. Everybody wants to be like Rebecca.
Well, I hope not, actually. I hope everybody wants to be themselves, which is what the book and the app is all about. I think the app is called Acuity, and represented right here today. Got to brand it. Acuity is a self-awareness app. It's essentially a Yelp for you. So think about how you understand who you are, how you get feedback. Some of us have taken 360 reviews, maybe once a year. What Acuity does is it allows you to rate yourself on various skill sets, traits, ideas. And then you send it out to your friends, family, colleagues, coworkers, and they rate you anonymously over the course of a week. And you can start to see where your gaps are in your self-awareness. Because we all think that we're self-aware, but only about 5 to 10% of us are actually self-aware. So where are my actual strengths? Where are my actual weaknesses? Where can I lead from that's really powerful? Acuity gives you the opportunity to do that. So we've got an incredible program with Acuity. I'm super excited about that. And I've got a book that's coming out called Instinct. And Instinct is all about all of the instincts that we talked about today that hold us back from living our very best life.
I love it. And it's a great title for the book. When does it come out?
April 27th.
But it's all written.
It's all written. It's there. It is on Amazon. You can order it. I will sign you a copy happily. Just reach out to me and let me know.
All right, you're awesome.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by True Form Runner. Conquer your next race with the complete training solution from Spartan and True Form. The Spartan True Form trainer will redefine your running, improve your form, and reduce injury. Find out more at trueformrunner.com.